Welcome back to the Comstock Clan. We're Kevin and Christy.
And today we are going to close out this miscarriage story that we have been sharing. Today's going to be a little bit more about the emotional, mental side of things. Specifically, we're gonna follow up on our video that we did on sharing our pregnancy so early, and we're also going to talk a little bit about strength versus surrender. One of the things that I heard a lot over the past few weeks, month, whatever, is how strong that I am. I feel like strength is considered a good thing. I want to just really stress the importance that strength isn't necessarily a good thing. The appearance of strength does not actually, at least in my case, come from a powerful place. I don't even believe that it's necessarily a strength at all, and that it is more a surrender and giving in to God's will for your life, no matter what that might be, and being able to accept what He has for you, doing your best to take what He has for in it and making the most of it. And the only way that I can do that wholeheartedly is from a place of just total surrender and giving it all up. Because if I were to dig down and pull out my deepest desires, I would not be, like, if I were just living off of my own wants and desires for my life, I would have a very hard time going on with the fact that we had a miscarriage in 2019, and then we lost Xander as a full-term stillbirth in 9 months ago now, and then had this recent miscarriage. When I run that through my head, it feels unbearable. And yet when I let go of it and I take the day-to-day of, Lord, I'm going to be grateful for what you have given me, and I am going to focus on the lessons that you're teaching me and look for your will on how to move forward, then the rest of that kind of fades into the background and doesn't feel daunting or even important. Mm-hmm. And now that does not mean that it doesn't
happen,
rear up every once in a while, and that I don't feel that ever. As long as I am doing my part to stay close to Him and do my best to follow Him, it usually doesn't stay for long. If you are experiencing hard times of any type, I just want to encourage you to look for the good that God has for you, look for the lessons, look for whatever He has for you in this situation, because He does use all things for His good. I understand that sometimes it's hard to see. Sometimes it might take a little while to see that. But I'm going to make a really bold claim and say that if you're not able to find that over a significant amount of time, then you're not looking in the right places. And I know that might be a hard truth, but I'm not here to lie to you. Secondly, I wanted to just kind of circle back, and we talked about the why behind why we were sharing this pregnancy so early. And we talked about the fact that our society kind of has built up this norm that you're not supposed to tell people until you're past the risk, or you're past the point where the risk of miscarriage is high. And I want to just reconfirm the value that comes from sharing that pregnancy early, even when it does end in a miscarriage. The stress that is created from trying to hide a pregnancy, whether mentally or emotionally or physically or in whatever aspect, because it's what you're supposed to do. I just want to battle or challenge that standpoint. I was thinking back and I was thinking about the fact that in the past, early on, I wouldn't want to share a pregnancy early because I wouldn't want to take the chance of having to share a miscarriage. Now, granted, we are in I don't know how interesting our situation is. I know that there's a lot of people who go through infertility issues at the early stages, like when they're trying to have their first baby. I don't know how many people attempt to continue to have children into their 40s, and so I don't know how normal this is or not. I know that when I was younger, I probably would have not shared. Like, we didn't share a pregnancy early.
No, I remember calling my dad, and when I told him about Harbor, he goes, "How long have you known?" And I was like, 2 months. He goes, "Why'd you wait so long?"
Yeah.
So.
Because it's just what you do.
What you do, yeah.
Now, I think that it actually stemmed more from that because I had I've been really just kind of digging down on this, and I think that I had two reasons why I wouldn't want to share a pregnancy early, because I wouldn't want to have to share that we had a miscarriage if that were to have happened. And I think that reason number one is because I did not like people feeling bad for me. And I didn't. And we were talking about this earlier. I think it's an attention thing altogether, because I don't like compliments. I don't like, and so like I don't think that I like attention at all, which is part of why it took 10 years for me to say yes to God, to sharing our life like this. I hate people feeling sorry for me. I wouldn't want to have to share that news. And so I would avoid it by not sharing a pregnancy. What I have learned over the last number of years is that we really have zero control over what people think, far less than what you even imagine. The thing is that people will feel sorry for you for things that are crazy in your mind. People will think poorly of you for things that you're proud of. Like, there's so many different people that think so differently from you everywhere in the world that you have no control over what people think. No matter how much you try to portray your life in a certain way, people are going to think whatever they want, and it's going to be across the board. It's not going to be consistent. This is where I say the important thing is to follow God and to live for Him and be good with that. And that's, nothing else matters, literally. Because if you're good with God, then there's nothing else. Now, ideally, you and your spouse are good with God together, because that does make life a lot easier. The second reason that I came up with for why I would have been reluctant to share a pregnancy early in the past is because I felt like when bad things happened that it was a direct reflection or correlation to something wrong that I was doing in my life. It just so happened that I was reading Job while I was going through this miscarriage. Obviously, that was no coincidence. I knew, this is hard to explain, it's like I knew that wasn't the case. I believe in God's truths, and I knew that, it's not that He's punishing us for our behavior, but yet knowing and feeling are two very different things, and actually living that out. I remember having issues in our marriage, and I remember having issues at the farm with animals dying. And just, I remember we had problems with Kaiser, our first dog, and he had to have surgery, and then he ended up dying within a year of having that surgery. And I just remember really just taking the bad things that happened and feeling like they were a direct reflection of how I was living my life. And so I was ashamed to share that with anyone because it felt like it's almost like I was getting publicly punished. I think that just going through this experience, I feel like I've really kind of learned my lesson and I've passed the test now, because I do not feel like that at all. I feel like this happened because we live in a fallen world, and that there's nothing that I could have done to change it. There's nothing that I should have done differently, and that it's just part of our story and that we are supposed to make the most of it. I'm trying to do that by sharing that with you. I hope that us being open and honest and as transparent as possible about this whole experience is a blessing to you in some way. I would love to hear what you are going through. If you have a minute, you can write a comment below, or you can send us a message. I know that somewhere YouTube has a way that you can get our email address if you click on our About section, I think, if you don't want that to be public. So,
and I want to also say that because you're going through something hard, you feel alone sometimes. And we were talking about the community that you develop online, and we've gotten messages from people sharing that they've had miscarriages and then they're due with another baby, and we can get excited for them and things like that. And part of the reason why having a platform to communicate isn't necessarily for us to bring attention to ourselves. We've mentioned this before, but it's rather here to encourage you to develop your life the way that you feel God calling you to do that. And we want to be encouraging for that. And we've mentioned having a struggling marriage for years. And I remember thinking, is this as good as it gets? Because if this is it, then I don't want this. And I don't think I've had the thought, you mentioned something, this is just part of our story. And I remember thinking, when Xander died, I remember thinking, I sure hope this isn't the end. That this is just part of the story. And when you got pregnant, again, I finally got excited and I was thinking, there's redemption to this sad story. And then we lost this baby, and I don't think I've had this thought, is this as good as it gets? And I know there's going to be more to the story. Even if
it doesn't
pan out the way that we were thinking, it's not going to be the end of the story, because there will be something eventually. Christy said that if you can't find what your lesson is in the trials or the hard things, that you're looking in the wrong places. And I'm still, I mean, we've shared that we've been able to grow from this loss already. There's other losses that we've had that I'm still processing and trying to navigate through. And one of them is my dad dying a few years ago. And I remember thinking, why? Like, why did he die? Why did this happen? And the thought that keeps coming up is, it makes me want to be a better dad. When we lose a baby, it makes me want to be a better dad. One of the lessons we've learned is just, hard is hard and hard's not bad. I know we've mentioned that before. That's okay.
Such a good truth.
Man.
So I think that's it for this video series. We are going to come back and do a I want to provide a quick tips for people who find out that they're going to have miscarriage on like some practical things to do. But that's going to be kind of like an extra video that we throw in somewhere. And I think that, I don't know, we're going to figure out, I think we're going to take a week off from doing videos on Sundays, and then maybe come back with some other things that we wanted to talk about. Hopefully sometime in the near future we will be able to do another natural pregnancy series. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be something else. I don't know. We are ready and waiting for whatever God has for us.